Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. I'm so happy, so excited to be here with all of you. I see that there's quite a few people hopping on. I'm just so excited to transmit these codes and to anchor these energies of peace and joy and organic aliveness with all of you. So exciting that you are all resonant with this frequency. So how these live streams are going to go is that I'm going to start by a conversation, or I'm going to talk about one of these subjects that I have kind of given out in these sneak peeks. And then after our conversation, probably be in like 20-25 minutes, I'm going to go into a sound healing. And this is a opportunity for us to harmonize our energy, and it's going to be sort of a planetary grid work kind of scenario where I'm going to do a guided meditation where we zoom into the energy planes of the planet, and we just cover the planet with our love and bring in whatever codes help the earth people and the elemental body and the animals assimilate to the new energies that are coming in. I'm not sure. I think that, being called to this space, you probably are experienced on some level with quantum energy. But if you're not, I'll just give a brief background on that. Our mind and our energy, we're so powerful when we are aware of it. And there has been so many scientific experiments done on mass meditation efforts where, when large amounts of people come together to meditate, crime goes down, different kinds of things shift within the collective. And so with that awareness, we're actually going to be doing some high-level intentions. These high-level intentions, meaning that we are really intending for the planet to move through these transitions over the next period of time in the most amount of peace as possible, in the least amount of harm to innocent people as possible, and the most amount of smoothness and gentleness and openness as we possibly can. And so as we bring in these energies into our own cellular structure, we will share that energy with the planetary energies. And these I just want you to know that it is really doing something. There's a reason why Spirit has called us together at this time to do this kind of work. And I know that there's a lot of information out there right now, a lot of information, a lot of like super entertainment and like sensational high energy things that just want to take your awareness outside of you and be like, look at this thing that's happening. And what we're doing is coming back to the presence of our self, because our soul is connected to the present moment all the time. And so even if there are information out there that wants you to jump into a state of fear or resistance, or there's something to fight, when we tune into the energy of our spirit and the energies of our body, and actually when we go into the forest, the energy are ultra high. The frequency is coming in the earth right now is ultra brilliant and beautiful and evolutionary and angelic. And I'm lucky enough to live 2.5 hours away from the city. And I was called to drive to the city today to pull a line out into the city so that we can hold space for all those people. But I am a gatekeeper. I live basically inside of a Stargate. My role in the planetary mission at this time is to hold this energy of peace, is to work so hard on my personal healing and studying interdimensional energy. So I support light workers in their self-healing journey, and also in supporting Gaia in her planetary energetic integrity. And so that means, really holding the field steady and supporting her, in her integration of cosmic energy, and of course all of the creatures, which includes all of humanity, because it can't be a little bit intense. This transformation, these solar codes that are coming in to activate our DNA, they can create what we like to call ascension symptoms, or basically distortions in our energy body and our genetics that are out of resonance with the high vibrations that are coming in. And so we experience them as sickness, and there are accelerated ways we can heal ourselves. And so we're going to go into a little bit of this today. So for the next 11 days, I have so much of this level of frequencies for us all. I am so honored to be here and to be called to do this. And I know that our work is really going to support the planet. And so hello to everybody right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you feel that this frequency is resonant and it is helpful and it feels joyful, please do share this video so that the medicine can get out as far as possible and we can have more of our family members holding this frequency, because the more of us that are anchored in this empowerment, in this God self, in this divinity, in this sovereign awareness, the more smooth and the more easy this whole transformation is going to be. So once again, welcome. So my name is Xi EarthStar Healer, and my story, I want to talk about my story today because I want to talk about the true galactic frequencies and the true galactic beings and councils and the true starseeds that are here on Earth right now. Because I know that there are a lot of people that resonate with being a starseed, but also there has been so much, distortion and false news and all sorts of different things. And I recently saw some military had like written this news, there's like a newspaper thing that was like, the headline had Galactic Federation inside of it, but it was like a military thing. And so I really wanted to come in here and just talk about, the true starseed mission and why I call it the true starseed mission. And I'm going to kind of use my story as an example. So back in 2013, I was completely asleep, and I like to say, a perfect little Chinese girl going to classic piano school in university. I was going to become a classical pianist. And one day in March of 2013, and that's going to be an important date later, March of 2013, I was in the back of a taxi, and this voice came in, this male voice, and it said, "Xi, where are you from?" And my immediate reaction was like, I don't know, China. And this voice was like, "No, Andromeda." And it just resonated so far through my body. And at that time, I didn't know about energy or anything. So it really shocked me that my whole body just felt this something that I didn't even have words for. And I was like, wow, like, I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of Andromeda. I honestly didn't even know that it was a place in space. And so when I went home, I Googled beings from Andromeda. And that's actually how I came upon these stories and information about starseeds. Now, that was my moment of awakening. For the next 2 years, I basically began to be guided by this energy. And I began to realize that this energy was existing in a dimension. I would feel like it was above me, and it would open my crown, and I would feel like my crown would merge with the sky, almost like the top of my head was no longer existent, and the top of my head was just one with the infinite starry sky. And so when I would tune into this voice, I would feel a great familiarity. Like there was just this warm, loving energy in my heart. I would just feel real protected by it. I would feel really, unconditional love and supported by it. I never felt like it was trying to get me to do anything. I never felt like it was, trying to tell me things. It was just kind of there, like holding space is a great way to call it. And so around the same time, I also was realizing that something was really wrong with the world. And to me at that time, I just realized that most people were really unhappy. I looked around and people were trying to go to work and they all had this like stern, solid face on them all the time. And I was just like, I don't know if we're meant to be like that. I'm not sure if we're meant to live like that. And if we're going to live like that our entire life, I'm not really sure if I want to be a part of it. Like I don't want to participate. And so one day that feeling of there being something wrong, like everywhere I went, on the street, in the buses, like everywhere I would just feel like this impending wrongness with everything. And so eventually I went for a hike one day in the forest. And when I was in the forest, I felt something real, something different. The energies at this point, I would call the energy of life. And that aliveness was just scintillating in the forest so strongly, and it was so beautiful that I just started weeping, and I fell to the ground and I started screaming. And I grew up atheist, so I don't really know what I was doing, but I think something just took over me, and I was just screaming at the sky and the earth, and I'm saying, if there's a God or a Mother Earth, like I've heard these things, like if you're real, please tell me what I'm supposed to be doing or what I can do to help with this situation on Earth right now, because everyone is so so unhappy. And it seemed like that there was a great sickness. I felt like this wasn't the way the world was supposed to be. And so I really wasn't expecting the Earth to begin to speak back to me, but within a week, she started guiding me to different places on the planet. And she would say that, your energy, your body is a channel, you're a vessel for cosmic energy. This is what all humans are. And that when you clear your vessel and allow cosmic energy to flow through, you become an acupuncture needle for the Earth. And when this happens, you can assist in the planetary shift in a visceral and palpable way. And so, of course, this was all very surprising and new to me, but there was nothing more that made more sense. And so my consciousness was just so grateful that this information was coming in, because nothing else in my life made sense up to that point, right? I'm sure a lot of us resonate with that, just like being at school or something and just being like, I don't know what this is, but something's really weird about it. So the amazing thing is that eventually in 2015, this voice guided me here to New Mexico. And this next part of my story, a lot of you know, but I feel more and more that this is a very significant and awesome thing, because this is a direct physical materialization of the truth of our starseed beingness. And so in 2015, I came to New Mexico, and I came to this land. And when I got here, the land steward, his name is Rich, so we hung out for a while, and I told him, I think I'm from Andromeda, and I think I'm here to create a starseed community, a starseed mystery school. And I think that we're supposed to, explore the levels of mastery we can experience in these bodies, all the while holding space for planetary ascension and for all of humans to be liberated from the false matrix and to embody our divine sovereignty. And that's a mouthful. So Rich kind of was flabbergasted, because his friend Stu died in March of 2013. And of course, if you're paying attention, that is when I started communicating with this male Andromedan being, right? And so he said that Stu died in March of 2013, but before he died, he bought this land, and he always wanted to build a starseed community / mystery school, and that was his dream, and that's why he got this land. And that before he died, he told Rich that one day a little Chinese girl from Andromeda was going to come, and that this land was meant for her, and that she was going to continue his work here. And so when he said that, I was like, holy moly. All this time, I was thinking that I was making all this up in my head, like, aliens are talking to me in my head, right? Like, yeah, right. And, they weren't talking to me like some channelers, where they would be like, oh, beloved, greeting, whatever. Light is coming onto the earth. Like, it was just, a pulsing of activation and guidance and love and support, because they knew that I was part of them. They knew that I was them, and I'm the one that's here on earth now. I'm the representative of our collective consciousness. And I'm saying I, but I'm really reflecting all of you, right? I'm telling my story as a reflection to share this integration, because at this point I have integrated the fact that I'm a starseed, because I literally live here at a place that was given to me by my literal Andromedan uncle. And it's so interesting, because years later we discovered that there was still some money in his retirement fund, and that was what put the down payment on this house that I'm currently living in. And so when I tune into the house, I feel like his galactic consciousness is literally the house, and he's literally, helping me and nurturing me in so many ways. And this land, was a whole other thing. There is a Stargate about, I don't even know miles, but about 30-minute drive. And we're really out in the middle of nowhere, like 2.5 hours away from the city. And I'm going to talk more about the Stargate on the Stargate day. So I know that at this point, that my starseed mission, how it came through to me was that on that trip here in 2015, the first trip I took out to the land, I remember the connection was so strong because, they had finally guided me to the place I was meant to be, where I was meant to anchor this Stargate. The channel was so wide open that the communications were like, I was like, okay, fine. I finally believe that you're a real thing. Fine. If you're telling me that I'm some crazy space alien and I'm on a mission here on Earth, then what's my mission? And immediately these words bounced back at me, and it was like healthcare. And honestly, I really thought they were going to say something more spiritual than that. But then I was like, because they said something so mundane, I was like, maybe there's actually something legitimate about this, or, maybe there was actually like something that was really connected to the physical reality that was here. And so I was like, fine, if that's my mission, then what's my job title? And they say self-healing guide. And I was like, really? Like, I was hoping you were going to say like crystalline healer or like, a shaman or like something cooler. But that's what they said, a self-healing guide. And over the next 5 years, I began to unpack what that actually means. And I realized that is so much more profound than, what I at first, thought at that time. So I believe that on some level, that's what we are all doing, because humanity have gone through just a heck of a time here on this planet. And over the next few days, we're going to talk all about it, from the negative alien invasion to the genetic degradation that we have to, the mind control that have been placed upon them and the military experimentation, just all sorts of crazy things. And all of this has basically made us forget that we are truly divine sovereign beings. And I know that we can talk a lot about what being a divine sovereign being is, but really at this point of the journey, I realize that it's all about our embodiment. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is actually that in our starseed journey, there is actually two parts of ourself that we really have to understand. The first part is the star self. The star self is the part of us that we often like better, right? Is the part of us that is connected to the stars, that has infinite intelligence, that has understanding of the universe, that feels joy and delight and excitement and just the brilliance of life itself. And so all of that is great, and it can be very sparkly. And so all we want to do is go towards that. We are like, how do we activate our psychic abilities? How do I astral travel? How do I connect with my dogs outside the window is really funny. How do I connect with my guys? How do I, all these things? And the secret sauce actually lies within our earth self. So our earth self is the part of ourself that has been inside the matrix for however long. For me, that was 19 years, right? For some of you, it might be 40. For some of you, it might be 30. It might be longer. And so the earth self has then experienced the self as a personality, as something that was severed from the divine. And over the course of time, and especially in our entire ancestry, we have picked up certain belief systems and distortions and traumas, beliefs like, I'm not worthy of love, and I am not divine, I'm not good enough, I am separate, my body is an inanimate object. All of these very subconscious things that, when we come into realization of this, we realize that our star self can actually never fully walk in and anchor into our body without having completely reintegrated and upgraded and healed the earth self. And the earth self exists primarily within the root and between the root and heart chakra, so the human heart chakra. And there is a lot of, let's say, programs in the false light, new age situation they want to be like, oh, love and light, stay in your heart and above, don't even go down there. Like, you want to be in a good vibe, stay positive about everything, like it's all good. And then these light workers wonder why they're broke, wonder why they still haven't written that book, wonder why they still haven't built the healing center that they know is their actual mission. It's because these vessels, these bodies are amazing. These vessels are angelic technology that can be a container for cosmic creative energy. And that cosmic creative energy is our star self, is the cosmos, is the universal oneness, right? But our physical body in our false matrix reality in the 3D, there's so much about the physical body that we don't know, and that is just complete lies, right? And we want to think that, the body is dumb and that it gets broken sometimes and it's diseased and we got to like put these artificial chemicals inside of it to fix it. And the truth of the matter is that, these bodies have just been trying to balance and heal and process all of the things that our consciousness and our emotions are supposed to be processing. And so by that I mean, like, when we get upset or something, like instead of the mind supporting the body to heal that, it's like we just use the body to stuff it down, or we overeat, or we use a vice that actually ultimately harms the body. And so, creation happens through the vessel. And so when our cosmic self has all these amazing ideas and has all these amazing insights and is like, okay, I'm here to, make a new healing modality, and I'm here to build a animal sanctuary. And it's like, it oscillates really fast. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like, this is what I'm here to do. And meanwhile, our root chakra, if it's closed, if it's harmed, and if you have never gone in to heal, those chakras, if you not spent 5 years healing those chakras, then you bet that there are distortions down there, okay? And this is what they call spiritual bypassing. It's like, oh, I'm ascended or whatever. And it's like, if you have not pointed your laser focus inside, then there's still crap in there that you've been running away from for a long time. And trust me, I know, because it's shitty. These energies are shitty because this is where we store our subconscious response to the slave matrix. Everybody knows that their energy is being hijacked and parasited and stolen and being prostituted, right? On some level, everybody knows this. This is why they call it the rat race. But what people don't realize is that our body and our energy body and our emotional bodies, they're always responding to that. And so there's a part of us that actually does feel like it has been abused. And this is a creational level abuse. And creational level abuse is what I would also relate to as sexual abuse, because sexual energy is creation energy. And so if you're feeling like you have this giant mission on earth, but you just haven't been able to activate it, trust me, it's not because you're not spiritual enough, because you are hella spiritual and that's just what you are. You can't actually not be spiritual. It's because your lower chakras are clogged up in poop. And there's a person saying, aren't you forgetting the factor of people's unique karmas? Well, I'm pretty sure that most of the human karma is in the lower chakras. Even if you have some things that are in the higher chakras, they eventually all connect to things in the lower chakras, because that's just where dense energy kind of goes. It just kind of falls down there and you kind of pretend that it's not there, especially if, you're used to being in the mind and you want to think yourself through the ascension. And so going into the lower chakras is so important because when you have these high vibrational ideas, all of the chakras have different oscillation ranges, right? So the higher chakras, they oscillate really quickly, and beyond the third eye, there's no time. We're outside of time, and so it seems like everything's happening all at once, and everything's gonna happen all at the same time. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna build a starseed school. Okay, I'm gonna do that now. But the thing is, because you haven't pulled that energy all the way through the body, where that information actually begins to get broken down, and you can see the more details of that, right? So by the time it gets down to the root chakra, it's actually oscillating in the present moment, oscillating in the slow oscillation of the root. And at this point, you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Like, here are the things that I actually need. Here are the first steps that I need to take. I need to heal my vessel, because I can't be a healer unless, I understand how to heal myself. And then I need to probably figure out how I can both be of service and continually evolve my physicality, right? And right now, physicality is money. Right now, it's money, and maybe eventually it'll be different. But there's a lot of distractions that have been keeping light workers broke for a long time. They're saying, oh, something outside of you is going to come and give you a bunch of money. Don't even you worry. And then, 5 years later, you're still sitting in the same spot that you were 5 years ago saying, I'm going to build something later. So there's this resistance to going into the density, and I understand it because it sucks, right? But this is how we gain our own mastery, though. This is why your soul is here. For you to be able to experience that soul level cosmic oscillation of creativity in the physical body, this is incredible. I mean, I am just like, last year, somebody was like, hey, I want to give you $1 million for your center. And it was a test, because I realized that their energy was not in alignment with the center. I mean, this center, the EarthStar Sanctuary, is really a galactic conference center. And the frequency of it has to be so high, and that's why it's not been built, because I have not been in the frequency that would have been able to pull it into manifestation. And so I'm finally, the land has actually been kicking me out every year until I finally figured out that I need to just let go of everything that's not serving my highest level of mastery. And this was only 18 months ago that I was allowed to actually stay here. And I came here in 2015. So this land actually has been guiding and training me all this time until I was finally in the vibration that I could actually stay here. And then I realized that, in order to land this thing, the people that are building it has to be in such a high vibration of self-mastery and integrity. And so when this $1 million investor came in, I was like, wow, I can totally just, take this money, but I could feel deep inside me that it was wrong. And so I was like, okay. And then I felt this other part of me that was like, if this money came in, I would actually be pretty disappointed, because, we are learning how to transform cosmic energy into material existence, into physicality. And this is part of what, God, the universe, is doing, that as us, as these physical human bodies. And so eventually that offer, kind of fell apart. And I realized that it was kind of infiltration in some level. And then when I went outside and I was talking to my mentor, I was saying, hey, we almost got this money. And he was like, it really feels like you're meant to create that through your mastery. It's really feeling like you're meant to create what you need from within you. And as soon as he said that, this giant shooting star just ripped across the sky. And I was like, well, I guess you can't really deny notes like that, right? So once again, we're talking about our wholeness, our vessel. And again, if you've been avoiding that work for a long time, 2021 is really the year that we get to catch up on our homework. Because, I just feel like there's so much fluff in the world right now, especially in the spiritual community, where people want to feel good. People want to say, oh, fluffy aliens and light and stuff. But then, when it comes to the heavier energies, they'd rather sensationalize it than internalize it. And by that, I mean, For example, with the child sex trafficking, right? Like, why does that exist on this planet? And over the next few days, we're going to explain why, satanic rituals are done, how that actually affects the planetary grid, and how that actually overall is a mind control technology that keeps humanity in a trauma-based kind of amnesia, mind fog kind of state. But yeah, if you believe that you're a starseed and you think that you're here for great things, my one tip is to use that knowing, and I feel it in my heart, right? It's like, even if, okay, there was a period of time when I was Googling for things and I was looking up, starseed like quizzes, and I'm just like, okay, the internet is gonna tell me who I am. And, it's going to answer all my questions. And then eventually I realized that, there's only so much. Like, you probably get 2%. Like, the fact that there is thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people resonate with being a starseed should be confirmation enough. And so that's just like kind of a permission. And eventually you don't want to seek permission or approval from anything outside of you, right? And that's a big thing for us that grew up in families with parents that were a certain kind of way. So we want to eventually just say, when we want to go outwards and say, am I a starseed? We want to turn that question just inwardly and ask yourself, am I a starseed? And then if you really feel like you're a starseed, know that it's not really important to prove it, right? You don't want to prove it to other people. And more especially, I feel like the only way that you want to prove it is by being continually aligning to mastery. Sometimes, when our human personality is not gone through the healing that is necessary, our solar plexus can be, off balance. And our solar plexus, I like to think that there's actually a positive ego or an original ego or the part of your human, the earth self, right? The personality, the part of you that is human. It's, 3D and has preferences and has personality. Now, I think that, this negative ego that people keep talking about, in the end is just a wounded child, a child that existed in a traumatic society that could not provide for it properly, could not offer it the love that he needed, could not show the child that the truth, which is that we are all divine, sovereign creator beings. And so growing up in a society where we weren't told the truth created personalities that were severed from the truth. And so that's what we would call negative egos, where the negative ego is constantly trying to prove its worth because it's not sure if it's divine, right? So it's very innocent. It's not our fault. But eventually we'll realize that there is that cultivation of our personality, and this is where the real work is. Again, you are a cosmic being. You are ultra spiritual. You don't really need to try to become more spiritual as long as you clear out the vessel. Because when the vessel is clear, when the distortion, trauma, energy gets cleared out, then what's naturally emerging, what's left, is going to be your organic, divine soul self. And so, the way that I went into that exploration was by saying, well, okay, I am a starseed, then what am I here for, right? And the answer to that is usually the thing that attracts to you the most, or the thing that comes naturally to you the most. And this is when you can begin to recognize, what your own gifts are, right? And this is something that the positive or the healed ego will know how to do as well, is correct self-recognition instead of narcissism, where you're like, oh yeah, like I am actually good at this. And well, I'm not really good at that. And it doesn't come with any guilt or shame. It's just, a neutral self-recognition. And so for me, I realized that I've always been very intuitively guided to be in my body. And I had these experiences with the healthcare system when I was younger, which made me learn a lot about how it's broken. And so for a lot of you, that could be all sorts of different things. And so someone is asking how we clear our lower chakras, and this is a great question. So it's actually really quite easy, but the hard part is actually allowing yourself to feel the things that are uncomfortable. For me, I personally use a large array of things that I call the internal medicines. And these things are, for example, the soul self-awareness, or your higher self, just recognizing that you have a higher self and that your soul is divine. And actually, I don't really like calling it a higher self at this point, because that's kind of like insinuating that there's a part of you that's higher than you that's out of reach. Because the whole point of it is actually walking our true soul self into our body, so that, we are our soul, which is totally possible. But the false matrix will tell you that, when you come to earth, you forget everything or whatever. And so we have to actually diligently wake up through the awakening, through our amnesia. And when we begin to bring these higher vibrations, that's medicine number one, is our higher awareness, these higher frequencies. The second medicine is breath. The third medicine is sound. And then the other medicines, because counting is hard, is movement and touch and pressure. And so what you end up doing is really just, it's so simple. It's simple because these are things that your body was built to do. Your body is built to shake off and release distortions. But you actually have to spend time every day to go in and do that. If you have not done a lot of this kind of work, if you are in the place where you're like, well, I'm not sure if you have trauma or not, you definitely do. Let's just say this. If you close your eyes, it should feel like your awareness is in your whole body and not just in your head. And it should feel like that your whole body is scintillating and alive, and there's, these energies of joy and beauty and excitement and creativity. It really feels like the universe, right? And it feels expansive. It feels joyful. It feels good. It feels good. And so if you close your eyes, and first of all, you're only in your head, it means that, you're not in your body. And that's okay, right? This is how we diagnose. This is how we learn how to work on ourselves. And so the next thing is you realize that, maybe you can feel your heart, but you can't really feel your lower body or your legs, right? And so the more that you go in and to feel yourself and to look yourself, yes, you can turn your awareness inwards. And this is, part of my work of, correcting the healthcare system, is to give that power of sovereignty back to people, because we have the power to be healthy. These bodies are incredible. We can be healthy all the time, right? It's just that, the body is really meant to live in the frequency of life, in the frequency of cosmic, consciousness. And so when the body is severed from that consciousness, it begins to literally degrade into death, which is when disease comes in. I just realized that this little banner has literally been rolling this whole time. All right. All right. So, by going in and recognizing, or tightness, you begin to notice that your body's like tight all the time. And that's when your fascia has literally coagulated and your nerves have coagulated, and the pattern and the resistance, that tightness is literally, your where you're separate from your true self. Because when you are in resonance with your true self, the self, because the self is the cosmos is fluid, is joyful, it's expansive, all of those energies. And yes, it's completely possible to exist in those frequencies all the time. And over the next few days, I'm happy to also, of course, share more about that. But there's a lot of different dimensions to this, and that's why tomorrow we're going to talk about the reptilian overlay and the original dragon energy, because it's related, and it's how the reptilian energy has fallen. And so it's kind of a ancient cosmological story as I know it from my own personal angelic team. So we're very excited to share that, and I'm so happy that you are here. I wrote a book called I Am Starseed, and this book is really, a summation of the Starseed mission through my own experience and through my own eyes. Because when Gaia and the Galactics began to guide me all over the world, they began to lead me to these places where I was literally being asked to scan the reality, right, using my psychic abilities and to read energy. And because I have literally practiced these reading my own energy for like a decade, that this skill became very cultivated inside me. And so, from ancient ruins to portals in the earth to Sasquatch and fairies and ETs to Ariana Grande, this book is basically a collection of my experiences perceiving those things. You could call it remote viewing, but it's slightly different. And through that experience, I was guided to basically piece together, what has happened on Earth and what I'm doing here. And so it's so exciting to share those findings with you. I'm excited to talk about all the rest of the things we have on the agenda over the next 10 days. And we're going to go into our sound healing. So remember that we are holding space on a planetary level right now. There's about 222 people on the call. I know that it's streaming both to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And so this is a potent field, right? What we're able to do together right now is amazing. So I want everybody to just spend a moment to tune into the heart for a second. And just feel how much excitement and joy and happiness and peace is in the field at the moment. And I want you to visualize or experience or imagine what it would feel like to be in a world where everyone is happy all the time. And if they weren't happy, the things that happen to them. So for example, if they lost a loved one, or if, some other thing happened that was sad, that they're organic and natural processes of life, right? But generally, people were happy to be alive and people were fulfilled in their creativity, and that people dance in their bodies, and that people are connected to their bodies, and people love their bodies. People felt like being in their bodies felt good, and they're healthy, and they're excited, and they see the beauty and the magic that is everywhere. And feel the frequency of the harmony that existed between those people, how people talk to each other. And how people are kind to each other, and how people hold each other and really take time to listen to each other. And that when people are, together and they co-create and they make food and they do different kinds of things, it's purely in a place of trust and of interacting from a place of love. And we're going to call this kind of the original organic living energy of human society. And so now I want you to almost like look around as if you're around the planet. And some of you I'm seeing you're kind of far off in the planet because you already like wandered off into the galactic frequencies. You're exactly where you need to be. But just for a moment, kind of look back at the earth, no matter how far it is. Maybe you're actually on the surface. Maybe you're way past the sun, wherever you are. Just take a look back at the earth, and also feel around for everyone that is here on this call right now, and also everyone that is tuning into these calls later. And just send them a greeting from the heart. We're creating this feel. Wow, you feel that? We're creating this field of love, of unconditional love, of recognition that we are here together. We're doing this together. It's this deep level of togetherness. Yeah. Humans can feel together. Humans can feel like we celebrate our entire, larger systemic network of ourself. And we can feel joyful together. We can feel like we're co-creating together. We can feel like we're coexisting on this planet inside this comfort and acceptance and presence and love. Wow, that feels really good, you guys. And so just bask in that for a moment and know that, this is the truth. This is what is. This is how we are. And so now we want to just direct that togetherness and that love right down into the earth. Or maybe it could feel like you are literally floating down to the earth and landing on her. And then maybe that light of this love and unity just grazes upon the surface, and you place your hand on the dirt and you feel this love and appreciation for life itself. And you just allow that delicious energy to sink all the way into the earth, going through all the layers of the earth, all of the distortion energy that might have solidified down through the earth's surface layers. You want to go deep, maybe even to the core with this energy. And now we just want to reach out through our heart to all of the people that are on earth right now. Almost like a knock, just like knock, 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 knock. Hello. Nothing abrasive, just like tickle them a little bit and say, hey, like we could have this. We could live like this. And this is how we are naturally. And that we can choose to lift ourselves into that frequency or to expand ourselves into that frequency all the time. And so at the same time, we're just transmitting these frequencies of faith and trust and knowing that heaven on earth has been mandated by the highest of the high, by our collective universal oneness. And that the materialization of that reality is truly inevitable, that there's nothing to fight, there's nothing to resist, there's nothing to kill or beat. That reality is creating itself, and it's got to crumble and restructure everything that is out of alignment with that frequency of cosmic oneness and excitement and life and love. So we are holding space for that energy to ground and to anchor and to materialize in the most peaceful way, in the most harmonic way, in the most easy way, where none that are innocent are harmed. Right? And that almost like these walls around the cells and around the mind of people that have been enforced by programming and fear, that it just pops. And this light just flows in, the truth of our self, our divinity. My Thank you so much for tuning in today, for being here. And the energy is so beautiful. I'm so grateful that we're all here together at this amazing time. I love being here on Earth. And so I hope that you will join us tomorrow. We will be talking about the negative reptilian overlay and also the original dragon energy, which is the ancient creator beings of the universe, the guardians of the universe, and the original genetic blueprint and templates of these dragon energy, and kind of why, how it's related to the scary weird reptilians that are doing the weird stuff on Earth right now. So it's an ancient story of creation. So if you enjoyed this today, please do share it with your friends. Ask them to join us tomorrow. We are so joyful to be here in oneness together, and we will see each other tomorrow. Bye for now.